Hello dear friends, this rumor has become official when it has been confirmed by banks. Opinion piece. Market red alerts issued by Wall Street's six largest banks. Some strategists expect an imminent correction. Red alert is a state of heightened alertness and vigilance. Michael Burry believes the market could fall as much as 95%. Others foresee a slow downward drift in the coming months. 26 European stocks, most as risks of declines identified. Bank of Sweden president predicts Bitcoin's failure. Central banks have created the mother of all bubbles. HSBC warned of a market crash 5 years ago. World's billionaires moved to Dubai in search of tax breaks. Electricity prices soar in the UK with peaks of €3,000 per megawatt. Turkey, Iran and Pakistan reinforced their border to stop the wave of Afghan refugees. Let's start. Wall Street's six largest banks have issued market red alerts. Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, Citigroup, Credit Suisse, and Goldman Sachs. These are some of the largest Wall Street banks that have issued red alert warnings on the stock market in recent days. Some strategists expect an imminent correction of between 20% and 20%, while others foresee a slow downward drift in the coming months. A red alert is a state of maximum attention and vigilance decreed by an authority in times of great danger, especially in the event of natural disasters. In military terms, red alert is the final stage of alert in which enemy attack appears imminent in general terms, it is to say, a state of alert caused by imminent danger. Wall Street is a famous street in New York, located in Borough of Manhattan. Its fame is due to the fact that it's considered the most famous financial district in the world. It is home to the New York Stock Exchange. Stocks fall. US stocks fell broadly for the fourth straight day, Thursday, after another Federal Reserve official this week called for an early tapering of the central bank's long-term economic stimulus. Economic earthquake. Central banks have created the mother of all bubbles, analysts say. According to a report by Rabobank, what is coming would be an economic, market and geopolitical earthquake. However, one must relativize this alarmist warning because 5 years ago, in October 2016, HSBC Bank warned of an imminent collapse of the stock market that obviously didn't occur. Despite continued bullishness in financial markets and equity indices repeatedly making new highs, Deutsche Bank strategists expect an imminent correction of 6 to 10%, although they believe that the S&P 500 would return to its current level by the end of the year. In addition, the Franco-German firm Odo has analyzed pre-crisis and post-crisis earnings to identify the 26 European stocks most at risk of falling. Citi forecasts decline in almost half of the assets in 12 months' time. Investment firms revised their strategies following the all-time highs reached in European equities. In quotes, modern monetary theory. Michael Burry of Sion Asset Management also predicts a stock market crash. Burry believes this impending collapse will affect nearly every asset, including cryptocurrencies, gold, stocks, real estate, bonds, and more. Almost everything in Burry's massive bet relates to the coming inflation of the dollar. Michael Burry predicted the dot-com bubble in 2008 recession, and also paved the way for the rise of GameStop. With each short-term event, Burry made millions and sometimes even billions. Michael Burry now believes that the biggest financial crash in history is coming soon, and as with every other prediction of his, Burry is betting big money. If Burry's prediction were correct, the stock and cryptocurrency market could fall as much as 95%. Burry's entire argument centers around the effects of the so-called modern monetary theory, a macroeconomic theory that states that governments should borrow or print money until their economy reaches full employment. In other words, the theory states that in recession, governments should increase the money supply of their currency until the unemployment rate reaches normal levels. The theory goes on to state that governments should only worry about inflation after full employment is reached. But theory is one thing and practice is another. It's all algorithms. According to Leo Copperman, when the market finally goes down, it will move so fast that your head will spin. In quotes again, the structure of the market is broken. Copperman added, when there is a real fundamental reason for the market to go down, it will go down so fast that the head will spin, as we have it. In quotes, everything is in quotes. There are no stabilizing forces in the market right now. It is all algorithms. The only certainty, according to Copperman, is that someday things will change. Things will change when you least expect them to, but right now cyclical conditions are in the market's favor. Copperman believes that the Fed is creating the environment for this to go forward. There is a theory that the government shouldn't allow interest rates to go up because it can afford it, but I don't believe that theory. There has to be interest on the bonds, otherwise there is no financial incentive. I'd rather take my chances with a common stock. In quotes, everything. Copperman expanded on his complaints about the Fed. I see a lot of negatives in this interest rate policy, Copperman complained. If the Fed doesn't normalize rates, the central bank could lose control of the markets, which could send stocks into a devastating free fall. The Fed is creating the environment to allow this to go forward. Fleeing the ship. Millionaires from around the world are moving to Dubai in search of tax breaks, luxury and security. Dubai, the richest city in the Middle East and the 29th richest in the world, is experiencing an influx of millionaires. Dubai's population of high net worth individuals increased by 2,000 to 54,000 in June 21, up by as much as 3.8% from 52,000 last December. Possible reasons for Dubai's continued attractiveness to millionaires are security, health services, luxury shopping and dining, beaches, tax benefits, and a top-tier financial center. The Fed is reportedly helping to facilitate evictions from trailer parks. The Federal Reserve is reportedly helping corporate real estate investors evict poor people from mobile home parks. Real estate investors continue to buy mobile home parks and then raise rents and lot rates and evict residents who cannot pay. Globalists see humanity as cannon fodder. According to Josh Hunt, money is the blood supply to society. Our ancestors gave control of money to the bad guys, who use it to enslave and destroy us. This is the key to understanding our current crisis. Bitcoin news. Bitcoin ATMs. Although it is still far from declaring Bitcoin as an official currency, the countries of the North American continent lead in the number of Bitcoin ATMs with 24,669 machines available in the USA and Canada. In contrast, El Salvador only hosts 4 Bitcoin ATMs, machines where users can buy or sell cryptocurrencies on the go. Bank of Sweden president predicts Bitcoin failure. The president of Sweden's central bank, Riksbank, Stefan Ingves, has questioned the future of Bitcoin without government support, comparing its buying and selling to philately when trading in commercial stamps. Bitcoin is barter, no money, says Mexico's central bank chief. Bitcoin is more of a barter medium than a bold fiat money, Mexico's central bank chief said Thursday, calling it a high-risk investment and a poor store of value. The comments by Bank of Mexico Governor Alejandro Díaz de León suggest Mexico will not follow El Salvador anytime soon in adopting the digital currency as parallel legal tender. Europe. ECB slows its pace of emergency purchases and maintains interest rates. The European Central Bank has decided to slow the pace of net asset purchases under its emergency purchase program that has propped up the Eurozone economy during the crisis. The British wholesale market reached stratospheric figures this Thursday. At 15 hours, the price of electricity reached the stratospheric price of €2,960 per megawatt hour, in the midst of a perfect storm of disconnections and calm in the wind turbines of the Irish Sea. The average daily price of electricity in Spain's wholesale market hit a new record high today, reaching €152.32 per megawatt hour, its highest price ever, and 6.5% higher than the price recorded on yesterday Thursday. Angry Europeans protest electricity hyperinflation. Soaring natural gas prices threaten to become a drag on economies in Europe and elsewhere. Wholesale prices for the fuel are at their highest level in years, nearly 5 times what they were at this point in 2019, before the crisis. Hugo Carvajal, fugitive Venezuelan ex-general wanted by the US, arrested. The National Police arrested Hugo Armando Carvajal, known as Pollo Carvajal, a former Venezuelan Chavist general whose whereabouts were unknown since November 2019, and who was wanted by the US to be tried for drug trafficking, money laundering, and collaboration with the FARC. This Thursday in Madrid. He lived totally cloistered, without going outside or peeking out of the window, and always protected by people he trusted. Colombia and Spain, the OECD countries where unemployment fell the most in July. Colombia and Spain were, in that order, the OECD countries where unemployment fell the most in relative terms in July, a month in which there was also a very significant drop in the US. UK plans to return migrants' boats to France. British Home Secretary Priti Patel is preparing to return small migrant boats in the English Channel, despite warnings from French authorities that it could put lives at risk. Moroccans turned their back on Islamism with a punishment vote. The leadership of the Islamic Justice and Development Party presented its resignation in plenary session after the electoral defeat it suffered in the legislative elections, where analysts agree that there was a punishment vote by Moroccans to the Islamists after a decade at the head of the government. Afghanistan. Taliban allow evacuation of 200 Westerners. 10 days after the US and Western countries concluded their chaotic evacuation of Kabul International Airport, the previously damaged airport is now said to be fully operational. Commercial flights resume in Afghanistan. Kabul on Thursday saw the departure of its first international commercial flights in last month's chaotic Western airlift, but hopes of a return to order were countered by UN reports of increased restriction on women, a looming humanitarian disaster. Freezing Afghanistan's assets could throw millions into poverty. A United Nations envoy to Afghanistan warned of a looming humanitarian crisis in the war-torn nation, saving cutting aid funds to the Taliban-led government could throw millions into abject poverty and trigger a major refugee crisis. UN blacklist infuriates Taliban. The Taliban demanded Thursday that the names of their leaders be removed from a United Nations and US blacklists, an obstacle for the new Islamist government announced this week, which met with many detractors. More than a dozen members of the new cabinet of the Taliban's interim government, announced Tuesday, are on the UN Security Council's terrorist blacklist, many of them with warrants for their arrest by US agencies. The UN says there are credible allegations of reprisal killings by the Taliban despite their promises of amnesty. The international body is also receiving increasing reports of restrictions on women's rights in the country. UN Special Envoy for Afghanistan Deborah Lyons told the Security Council Thursday that there are credible allegations of reprisal killings carried out by the Taliban despite their promise to grant amnesties. UN says Afghan staff increasingly harassed and intimidated since Taliban seized power. Afghan United Nations staff are increasingly being subjected to harassment and intimidation since the Taliban came to power last month. UN Special Envoy for Afghanistan Deborah Lyons said Thursday. Turkey, Iran, Pakistan beef up border to a steam wave of Afghan refugees. Countries in the region near Afghanistan are busy beefing up their border security and sending troops to stop an expected explosion of Afghan refugees into their territories seeking to escape the new Taliban government. Tennessee woman stays in Afghanistan to rescue military working dogs. A native of Clinton, Tennessee, Charlotte Maxwell Jones, director and founder of Kabul Small Animal Rescue in Afghanistan capital, where she has lived for 11 years, stayed behind and decided not to take an evacuation flight because she wanted to rescue dogs. Military contract dogs, like military-owned working dogs, are trained to sniff out bombs and perform casual tasks to help neutralize threats while overseas. However, contract dogs do not have the same rights as military dogs. Airstrikes have killed as many as 48,000 civilians since 9/11. Airstrikes conducted have been killed between 22,000 and 48,000 civilians since September 11, 2001, according to a report released Monday by Air Wars, a military watchdog that monitors and seeks to reduce harms to civilians in areas of violent conflict. China's economy is a house of cards built on mountains of bad debt, and it's starting to crumble. Evergreen bonds pause amid liquidation panic as contagion spreads to other Chinese assets. Most importantly remains the ongoing collapse of more than $300 billion China Evergrande, where a bank emerged among the creditors of the largest and most indebted Chinese developers as its bonds were no longer eligible collateral in the repo market after a downgrade. Monday's fall went from bad to catastrophic as several Evergrande bonds collapsed amid a liquidation frenzy. Is China heading for cyber war? China is undertaking reforms to redistribute wealth. This will have an adverse effect on the economy as investors move capital and businesses out of the country and worse, provoke a cyber war, said Chen Li, president of Lin Asset Management. There is an historical precedent, in quotes. I'm not saying what happened 2000 years ago in the Han Dynasty will happen today, but there is a decent chance China could slow down, Lin told Kiko News host David Lin. Chinese military conducts military maneuvers in South China Sea, rehearses island invasion. China's military conducted drills in which they trained how to seize an island and plan to conduct others with live fire. South China Morning Post reports. Oil falls after China releases crude stockpile for first time to curb rising prices. Just hours after China unveiled another peak in producer price inflation, Beijing has taken the unprecedented step of releasing oil from its domestic crude stockpile to ease pressure on commodity prices. Divers identify ruptured pipeline as source of oil spill in Gulf of Mexico. The broken pipe, a foot in diameter, moved from a trench on the ocean floor. Talos Energy, the Houston-based company paying for the cleanup, said they do not own the ruptured pipe, which is in shallow water, about 11 feet deep. So far, the spill appears to have remained offshore and has not affected the Louisiana coast. Clean Gulf has placed a containment book in the area to prevent further spread of the oil. Curious. Jeff Bezos invests in stem cells to rejuvenate. Bezos is investigating several scientific companies that are researching ways to turn back the biological clock and thus live longer. The latest is called Altos Labs, a company that applies biological reprogramming technology, a way to rejuvenate the body's cells. Man wins lottery thanks to mysterious voice in his head. A Maryland man said he was about to leave a store when a voice inside his head told him to buy the scratched-off lottery ticket that won him $100,000 prize. Nolan Steele, 78, of Sickersville, explained that the voice inside his head told him not to leave before buying a ticket. In quotes, I don't know where it came from, Steele said, but I'm glad I had it. A church choir signs to scare away an owl, but the bird breaks into dance. An owl flew into a church, and upon becoming aware of its presence, the choir tried to scare it away with one of their songs. However, instead of being frightened, the bird started dancing to the rhythm of the music. An anti-demon bishop resigned for the love of unexpected Satanism. A very heavy burden to remain a bishop. Xavier Nobel, prelate of Solsona in Catalonia, has hung up his habits for love and is involved in a scandal of biblical proportions. An official exorcist since 2015, he ended up living with a psychologist writer of erotic books and Satanism whom he met during his investigations. Bizarre creatures resembling Harry Potter's Dementors are recorded. A man recently recorded a video of two mysterious tentacled objects in the sky, fueling speculation that they could be UFOs or even extraterrestrial creatures. The incident occurred in Colorado Springs on August 29, 2021, and was witnessed by a person named Josh Stoner, who, intrigued by the presence of two mysterious objects in the sky, decided to record them with his smartphone. The description of the video posted by YouTube channel Globe. How do you know if you are a descendant of extraterrestrials? Here are some of these characteristics. A strong in spirit, creative with an artistic flair for music, poetry, etc. Prone to addictions. You seem to have an old soul. You are isolationists, aggressive or introverted. You are independent and proud. You have a deep desire to help the world, drifting between low self-esteem and grandiosity. Enlightenment comes easily to you. You have a tendency to insomnia, restless sleep, nightmares, or difficulty falling asleep. You find it difficult to have real, deep and lasting friendships. Finally, you have a strong connection with nature and animals. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.